As we get to sorting the cattle, it should get pretty fun today. I'll be honest and fully transparent in the fact that I'm going to be pretty efficient when I'm sorting the stock, and every kid will still get a talk, and we'll still make sure we break down the animals. But get into this first class, Angus heifers, and got an October born out here, and I think this one looks the part in just being functional and feminine, and obviously on the heifer side of things, I'm going to put a great amount of emphasis on that. I like her build, I like her design, and her look up front's extremely good. Definitely a nice heifer to start off this particular show. My compliments to the exhibitor for bringing her out. Go ahead and give her a round of applause as she exits.
Now ready for Class 2 Angus heifers. Class 2, Class 3 should be at the arena. Class 4 should be making their way. Again, we're having trouble with the system back in the barn, so if you're in the arena and have folks who are showing Angus heifers and can assist us in getting the word out to them to be making their way to the arena, that would be helpful.
Nice Angus heifer we have coming out here. And obviously we've jumped a little majority in size and bulk, and from this one's midrib back, she's extremely good. Really round and bold about the body shape, and get her out through her pins, and she's plenty square and robust. Get her in travel, and I think her rear leg's appropriate. Plenty of heel for my liking, but pretty good. I'm going to tweak this heifer ever so slightly. It's going to be up front. We need to lift her up in her shoulder, tie her in a little bit better through her forerib and top line. But certainly a nice heifer to have here as your only representative. My compliments to the exhibitor. Give him a nice hand as he exits.
Now ready for Class 3 Angus heifers. These heifers were born from March 10th to March 25th. Class 4 Angus heifers should be making their way to the arena.
We have a trio of marches that we're sorting through in this particular Angus heifer class, and I think the quality is pretty good. At the same time, I think it falls together pretty logically, and for me, the most common sense place to go is the young man here on my far right to win this particular class. She wins because of her correctness of composition, pattern, and design from the side, guys. I think she's the most correct in the amount of fat she carries through the front side of her shoulder. Study her out of pie and the way she wants to pull herself together at the stand. And then when you put her in travel, I think she's the most secure on her rear foot as she runs. That heifer, for me, is the nice place to start. Second and third can get a little closer, but I think the heifer that overwhelms them in terms of just stoutness and a little extra body shape, and at the same time, I think she's more comfortable in how her rear leg sits on the surface, is going to be the young lady's heifer that sits on my left. For me, I think this one's ultra good in terms of body shape. Take her out through her pin. She's extremely broad and robust. Where I'd like to change her, I'd like to trim her up just a hair in terms of condition. And then when she gets out and rolls, her right foot wants to at times get a little outside of herself, but I think she's still true enough for me to use her in second. A young man that sits here in third, certainly a nice heifer that gives you a brood cow look from the side. My issue is when this one leaves you, not only does she want to taper and flatten out through her pin and through the lower portion of her hip, but more importantly, she wants to roll the outside of her foot and close up from hock to ground. We realign and design her rear leg, and I think that one could be a little more contention. Give all these exhibitors a nice round of applause on a good set of heifers.
First place in that last class was Jackson Heyman. Second was Emily Mann. Third was Garrett Haven. All three of those heifers were Putnam County born and raised. Those of you who don't know, if you look in your program, there's a column in the center marked Putnam County. If they're starred, those calves were born and raised in Putnam County. And we do have a show within our show where we are recognizing those Putnam County bred calves. So at times we will have a few different placings, and as we go through our breed champions and reserve champions, we will recognize the champions and reserve champions in the breed, but also champion and reserve that were born and bred in Putnam County.
As we get these calves pulled in, and it could be a little bit of a closer class, but I think one kind of jumps out and surfaces initially, and the fight comes in second and third. And the young man's calf that we lead off this particular class with, she summarizes everything we can want, especially within the Angus breed, I think. You know, her feet and leg placement are extremely good. She still carries some bone and foot and feature relative to this one. I love her body shape, her proportions and balance, and then at the same time, she does it all without getting too overdone, in my opinion, at this particular age. I think that's a nice effort to start. Young lady that sits here in second, I said the fight's between second and third. I use the skinnier one in second, no doubt, but when I get them in motion, I think is where I'm the most comfortable landing on her in two, because she's more comfortable in the angle and set to her shoulder. I think she can get out and reach better up front, and then when she actually pulls her knot head out and wants to lead on, I read her rear leg set and design and the way it wants to follow in her travel and step to be more correct than the young man that comes out here in third. No question, body, bulk, and mass, the center part of her cavity favors the young man's heifer that comes out here. Watch her go, and she wants to twist out ever so slightly on her rear feet. She gets a little more vertical in her shoulder that throws her step off up front. If we could just go ahead and redesign her off both ends, I could go ahead and use her in two pretty easily. Give all the exhibitors a nice round of applause on a nice set of Angus heifers.
Now ready for Class 5. These heifers were both born in September of 2016. Placings on the last class. First place was Douglas Riggin, second place Sarah Furman, third place Daniel Williams, and Daniel Williams had first place Putnam County born and raised.
as we get into our, obviously our oldest class, Angus heifers, and get to sorting them. I think, you know, obviously we know a little age of maturity is kicked in at this stage, and so they're not exactly going to be young show ponies, but at the same time, I think the heifer that just does the best job at the stand and when you get her out in the move of collecting her top line, staying more correct in, you know, her straightness of lines and her presence and look is the young lady that starts off this particular class. This one reads really good also, just in regards to her condition and body shape. No doubt there's a more robust and more powerful brood cow that sits behind her in two that certainly at the time can come in pieces when we look at her at the stand and really at this stage and where she's at in terms of her longevity and production life. You're going to get a little bit of inconsistency in top line at times, and I'm okay with that. My bigger issue is just when you get her in a show ring setting, just pulling herself together and being more collected. That's why she's 2 and the young lady wins. Nice class Angus heifers. Give those exhibitors a nice round of applause as they exit.
We're now ready to show for champion Angus heifer. You should have the Class 1 Layla Hazlett, Class 2 Garrett Haven, Class 3 Jackson Heyman, Class 4 Douglas Riggin, and from that last class, Class 5 Sarah Furman.
Go ahead and put your hands together on a nice set of Angus heifers. I like this group a lot, guys, and you'll go to a lot of county fairs and just first off, this broad of a range and age represented, and at the same time in each age group, you have some quality to work with, and I think that's compliments to the breeders and the exhibitors that bring out these quality Angus cattle. And at the same time, you're going to find out pretty quick throughout the day that I like my ladies to be good looking, designed right. Let's go ahead and pack the extra goodies and trick them out all we can after that. And at the same time, I think there's one out here that's a fresh show pony, and at the same time breeds with future. And for me, I think it continues to get better with age down the road. Young man here straight in front of me, he's going to go ahead and be your champion. Congratulations to him.
Jackson Heyman exhibited your champion Angus heifer. That heifer is also Putnam County bred, so she will be your Putnam County champion Angus heifer as well.
Drop that second place heifer out here, and she represents quality. We talked about her in class, extremely big and productive and fleshy in regards to that aspect. We talked about some design issues we tweak on her ever so slightly. I think the other two that come into contention is the older two heifers that sit across the way. I know right now the young man's heifer sitting right in front of him hasn't really given him a good moment to stick the entire time. Set that heifer in motion. I think her angles are really good, and I think she's comfortable in her build. My bigger issue is how well does she really tie that neck out of the front side of her shoulder? How attractive and slim can she get up to her neck and just really represent a show heifer right up front? I think she's a really good brood cow prospect. Just in terms of the show ring, can we clean her up through her chest, cut a little of that leather off, and make her a little cleaner fronted? Young lady's heifer on the far side, obviously a little more maturity comes in on this one, but I'll tell you, for where she's at in her maturity, obviously bone and foot size come with it, but at the same time, her ability to still be so collected and offer some presence and look and still give you a plenty functional build, young lady's bigger and older heifer down the far end will be reserved. Congratulations to them.
Sarah Furman is exhibitor of your reserve champion Angus heifer. That calf is not a Putnam County calf. So staying in for Putnam County Reserve, we need Garrett Havens Class 2 to stay in the ring. Layla Hazlett, you can leave the ring. We need Garrett Havens Class 5 to come in the ring. So we should have Garrett Havens Class 2. Emily Mann's Class 3. Daniel Williams from Class, not Daniel Williams. Garrett Haven from Class 5. Yes, we do need Daniel Williams' calf from Class 4.
drop in those calves and they're eligible for your county bred, born, and raised, or your county bred in terms of reserve. And we get out here, and I think you have a lot of different pieces and parts to work with. I really wouldn't argue with many of you in regards to which direction you want to go, because each one of them has some areas I'd certainly tweak in. I'm actually going to go ahead and sacrifice a little bit of bone, bulk, and just stoutness of skeleton, just because I think one of them out here, again, represents a really good-looking, feminine heifer that, in my opinion, when you set them in motion, is still correct in terms of composition and has a great presence about her. The young man here on my left will be reserved. Congratulations.
Daniel Williams out of Class 4 is your reserve Putnam County born and bred Angus heifer. We're now ready for Class 6 Charolais heifers. Class 6 Charolais heifers, that's a single entry, and Class 7 Charolais heifers is also a single entry.
Single entry here in the Charolais division. It looks like we're working with a couple single entries, so this will be relatively brief. Obviously, I can't mess this particular class up. Get past that, though, and what I really like about this heifer the young lady brings out to us today is this one's ability to offer some pattern, stature, and look, still maintain some bone and feature at the ground, and I read her body shape at this stage of maturity to be plenty good. Nice job to that young lady on a quality young heifer. That one's future is only going to be brighter as she continues to feed her. Congratulations to her, and give her a hand.
Heifer was exhibited by Grace Fry. That was also a Putnam County born and bred heifer. So if we can hold her here, she'll come right back in after this next class. Your Angus Awards that we just completed were sponsored by Champion Angus Heifer, was sponsored by Ken and Bev Tour. Putnam County Angus Heifer, Champion Heifer was sponsored by Willard Timber Ridge.
As we go ahead and get into our older heifer that'll be in contention for champion, really like this one from the side, guys. I mean, this is just good quality livestock in regards to angles, proportions, and her ability to comfortably let her skeleton fall into place at the stand, get her in motion, and her feet travel the same way. Body shape is good enough at this stage. Bulk's good enough at this stage. I think this one looks really good just from a function standpoint. Congratulations to that young man on a nice heifer to be sitting there out of the oldest group. as we get out here for our champion Charlet selection. I think it's a pair of heifers that honestly have a lot of similarities in what they offer. I think really you're looking at differences in maturity at this stage. Give this young calf a little more time, and as this one progresses, she'll be ultra competitive as she continues down the road. Obviously, I'm not going to make rocket science out of it. When you have just a really good, correctly built heifer that checks off all the boxes in regards to what we need in a breeding livestock, I think this young man's heifer right out here, the oldest one's going to be the logical place to win. Congratulations to him. Nice heifer to be there. Obviously, the young lady then will be reserved. Give these exhibitors in the Charlet division a nice hand.
Champion Charlet was exhibited by Jackson Heyman. She is also your Putnam County champion. Reserve champion exhibited by Grace Fry, and she is also a Putnam County calf. We're now showing Class 8 Kenya heifers. Single entry Class 9 Kenya heifers should be at the gate, and Class 10 should be making their way. Those Charlet banners were sponsored. Champion was sponsored by Jim Samsel family, and the champion Putnam County Charlet heifer was sponsored by Samsel Cattle Company, so appreciate their support as well.
Single entry here in our youngest class in our key division, and I'll tell you, she's obviously checking off all the boxes in terms of bulk and mass and spread up high, really big in her body shape and really square coming and going. At the surface, maybe could make her just a bigger footed and a little bigger ankle, but I think it's being nitpicky on a nice heifer for the young lady. Go ahead and give her a nice round of applause on her single class entry. Get this fall-born heifer out here in this particular group, and I know this is what I call the awkward middle school years in regards to these cattle and their maturity, and she shows it. I mean, she's a little bit skinny and just a little bit stretched out relative to this particular group as we work through some of our older heifers. But what I do appreciate about this heifer, even as she's wanting to camp out here on me at the stand, I will say that when you set her in motion, her angles off either end of her skeleton are extremely good. When she pulls herself together and gets out and goes, there's no question from a build standpoint she's right. Obviously, I need to bulk her up and just stouten her up coming and going, but that's a quality heifer that still offers function. Give that exhibitor a nice hand on his single entry.
Now we're for Class 10 Kenya heifers. Class 10 Kenya heifers are coming in. Class 11 Hereford heifers should be making their way to the arena.
I left these two heifers sitting out along the outside to go ahead and do a little discussion point, and then I'll let you know where they fall. But this is no question, I'm sure, in usually a county fair setting, this is a situation you'll run across rather frequently. You've got a pair of heifers out here that no doubt are extremely different in what they offer. The young man's heifer off to my left out here, certainly there's not going to be a heifer that probably walks through the ring the rest of the day, at least so far from what we've seen, that's just this busted open, this stout and wide, coming and going, and still can stay relatively within her framework. She's extremely broad-backed and big-bodied. She's really square-pinned. At the same time, she wants to get a little shorter in her neck, doesn't exactly set her shoulder in there where she needs to, and that makes her fall apart in her top line ever so slightly as she goes. But more importantly, when you get her and lead her out here, her shorter hip and tighter spine wants to make her kind of roll out in her feet and get a little shorter and unorthodox in her step. That's what I see in her. The young lady's heifer off to my far right, without question, is the flatter-haired heifer that doesn't have near the extras in terms of stoutness and width, but at the same time, when I take her to the surface, she's by some margin more comfortable in correcting the slope to her shoulder, the way her front foot sets down, and then the way her top line and everything ties together at the stand corresponds to that. She's not anywhere close in terms of feed bucket and body shape. And that's your debate you have between the pair. I like more functional cattle that can travel. Young lady here on my right's first. Young man on my left is second. Congratulations. Young man that sits in 3 holes, got another stouting. She fits right behind that second place heifer. Extremely big chested and opened up when she comes at you. Plenty of spread up high. The problem is when you get her off to the side, she comes in pieces, gets a little shallower body and a little forward in her shoulder. Not quite as comfortable and coordinated when you get her on the move either. That's why she sits in 3. Young lady that rounds out the class, brings a project that she does a good job representing. She certainly gives a good effort out here showing. This one just needs more body shape and performance to move her up any higher. Give all the exhibitors a nice round of applause on a nice set of heifers.
We're now ready to show for champion Kenya heifer from Class 8B, Callie Buckman, and Class 9, Jacob Pearl. Winning that last class was Grace Carr with a Putnam County born raised heifer. Braden Mann was second, also Putnam County born and raised. Colton Clifford was third, and Danica Overshiner was fourth.
certainly been a nice key division as we work through these heifers. And I'm more than happy with how the representatives come out of each class. For what we had to work with, at least I can sit here and I can stand on the fact that we had multiples in each class. I feel like we picked the functional cattle that can get out and roll, and then we went from there. And I think that holds true as we work through here. The young lady brings out the bigger heifer, and for me, she's the ready-made product that's more advanced from maturity and mass and body shape. She's your champion. Congratulations. Drop that second place heifer in here, and as critical as I was in her on the last class, there's still some really good things about her, guys, and that's, I'm not going to throw one away just because in certain parts of what they represent, we're just going to go ahead and rule them out altogether. When she comes back out here and you get her within this group, I think it's more a closer decision if you want to make it one, only because of what I prefaced before, but at the same time, I think the effort that just overwhelms this particular trio in regards to just stoutness still is functional enough with what remains out here. I'm okay with using the young man second for reserve. Congratulations to him. Nice job to the Canny exhibitor.
Champion Kenia heifer was exhibited by Grace Carr. Grace Carr. She was also your Putnam County champion. Reserve champion Kenia was Braden Mann, and he was also your Putnam County reserve. Sponsoring those awards, the champion banner was sponsored by the Anthony Haven family, and the Putnam County champion award was sponsored by J&N Feeds. So we certainly appreciate those sponsors. We're now ready to show Class 11 Hereford heifers. Class 11 Hereford heifers, Class 12 Hereford heifers should be at the arena. For those of you who weren't here at the beginning of the show, our judge today is Jake Rupert. He comes from Columbia City, Indiana. He judged and attended at both Blackhawk East and Purdue University. Currently is a sales rep for ADM Animal Nutrition and Mormon Showtech. So let's appreciate him for coming out and lining the cattle up.
as we get out here in this particular class of Herefords. I think it's a really competitive group, and you know, if I do anything, we all have our pet peeves on certain things. So if I made this decision drag out between 2 and 1, it was only because I wanted to see if I could make an excuse, and I really can't. I think there's just a heifer in this particular group that's extremely well presented, and at the same time, from her forerib, or at least midrib back, there's not a better heifer in this particular group. Young man sitting right out here in front of me will win this particular class. No doubt, when this one comes right at you, she can get a little flatter shoulder. She can get a little more conventional, is what I would call it, in the way her shoulder and chest setup sets within her skeleton. And I think that's why we have an issue there for me in terms of just look and balance up front. From her neck, her neck and how it ties up, shoulder is pretty good for my opinion in this particular breed. And I think she represents a lot of value there. Nice effort to be sitting there to win this particular class. Young lady in 2. This heifer just flat doesn't want to show, and that's why it gets to be a little tougher read. I love this one's foot and foundation. I love her angle. I love the way that her big shoulder can set in her. I think she's more genuine in her chest cavity. The problem is from the side. She just doesn't quite balance as well in terms of body lines. When you take her out and roll her out of her hip, I don't know if she really wants to set that rear foot behind her quite as comfortably as the young man's heifer that sits on the other side. The heifer that comes out of 3rd. Take this one from her midrib back, and it's another one that I can find a lot of value in. Problem is from her midrib forward, she gets flatter, more pinched to her forerib, not quite as correct in how her shoulder sits in her body. But I love the rear third of this one because she can get out and cover some ground. She's athletic, and she offers some pin set as she leaves you. The young man that rounds out this class certainly has one that's big in terms of its shoulder and pin set. Now we need to make this all blend because she gets shallower on her body cavity, a little inconsistent in her top line, and just wants to fall out of balance from the side. Really nice pair of heifers, though. Give all those exhibitors in the Hereford division a nice round of applause.
We're now ready for Class 12 Hereford heifers. Class 12 Hereford heifers, Class 13 main heifers, and Class 14 maintainer heifers should be heading to the arena. Class 13 main heifers and Class 14 maintainer heifers should be making their way to the arena.
Nice pair of heifers as we have our oldest class of Herefords out here. And obviously, if you just joined the show now, I've been on a little bit of a marathon here judging, so I'm trying to keep myself composed here on the mic and my voice consistent, so I apologize. But at the same time, we get out here, I think it's a pretty easy handle to grab the young man on my far right here to win this particular class. Love this one's bone and skeleton that sits underneath this one, but more importantly, when she gets in motion, there's not an uncomfortable joint in her body. She ties together extremely well, and for her age, I think her condition and where she's at in terms of feed is just fine. The young man that sits second offers one that's a little more moderate in its kind and shorter in its body, still offers some rib. My problem is when you set this one in motion, especially, if she gets a little shorter and unorthodox in her rear step off her rear foot, and at the same time, her top line could tie in just a little bit more consistently. Nice job to those exhibitors on a nice set of Hereford heifers. Should be a fun champion Hereford drive. Well, I think this particular breed deserves your hands put together for the quality it's represented as we get into the champion drive. I'm a fan of good Hereford cattle, and there's no doubt I think both of these represent the breed extremely well. I think when you put them in a show ring setting, because I think from a brood cow standpoint, I think there's tons of options here. Put them in a show ring and get them presented. Obviously, there's one that, not just from a fit and presentation standpoint, but even as you watch them at the stand, balances and ties proportions just a nickel better. Young man on my far right out of the younger group will be your champion Hereford. Congratulations.
Champion Hereford heifer exhibited by Jaden Simpson. That heifer was not a Putnam County born and bred, so we're now showing for reserve champion and champion Putnam County bred.
I like some things, especially with the front third of the body of the young lady's heifer that comes out there and second out of that particular class. So tall shoulder, and the way she can tie her neck out of the front side of her shoulder with that kind of look up front is not exactly conventional Hereford. The problem is you set her in motion, her hip wants to roll up underneath her just a hair, and that was my nitpick on her. At the same time, I think a heifer that, again, checks all the boxes and fundamentally is without question the next most logical fit for reserve. Young man here on my far right with the older heifer is going to be reserve Hereford. Congratulations.
Seth Thompson, we need your heifer out of class 12 for reserve Putnam County. Brock Havens heifer is your reserve champion Hereford heifer and your champion Putnam County born and raised.
I would call it extremely close for your county bred, because both heifers I highlighted had some things maybe from a design standpoint I would tweak. But at the same time, I think the heifer that comes out here, pulls herself together at the stand at least, and does a good enough job of balancing up. Young man actually that just came in will be your reserve bred, born and raised. Congratulations.
Seth Thompson exhibited your reserve Putnam County born and raised Hereford heifer. We're now ready for that main Anjou heifer, class 13. This is a single entry in the breed. Need the maintainer, class 14 and 15. Maintainer heifers, class 14 and 15. Please be making your way to the ring. Our sponsors for that Hereford breed, Champion Hereford heifer was sponsored by Sherman Hacker family, and the Champion Putnam County born and raised Hereford heifer was sponsored by Garrett Thompson and family.
How are you? Good, how are you guys? Tell Seth I said I will. I guess I
Although she might be your only representative in the main breed, I think she's awfully good in what she offers. No question, a tall-shouldered, extremely extended and good-looking one from the side. I think her body and proportions are good enough, and when you set her in motion, her rear leg actually sits out and grabs the surface pretty well. I think that's a nice heifer to be sitting there representing your main breed. Congratulations to the young lady for Champion Maine.
Champion Maine heifer exhibited by Boston Clark. That heifer was born and raised in Putnam County, so she is also your Putnam County Champion Maine heifer. Those awards were sponsored by Hodgen Farms and Rick and Rhonda Woodall, so we certainly appreciate those folks as well for their support here in the beef barn. Now ready for class 14 maintainer heifers. 14 maintainer heifers. Class 15 maintainer heifers, you should be ringside. We will be taking an hour lunch. We'll take a 1 hour lunch between the heifers and the steers. We're still having PA problems back in the barn, so if you can spread that word through the barn, we will take an hour lunch at the conclusion of the heifer show, and we will start back with that mini Hereford steer and then roll into the rest of the steer show at that time.
As we dive into our maintainer division, I think it's a nice pair that sit out here. Obviously, they vary quite a bit in just how they package, what they offer together. And by that specifically, I mean that the young man heifer on my far left sits second in this particular class. She's just shorter in her cannon, reads shorter in her pattern and design, and that kind of throws off her balance ever so slightly. For the size and what she offers, she's incredibly good in how she ties her shoulder out the front side of her neck, and how she looks up front in terms of presence. She just gets shorter spine and shorter couple, throws her balance off just a nickel. Well, that's a stout one that sits in 2. Young lady that sits here in first shows a big girl here, and it's certainly, obviously performance and mass and bulk all favor, but at the same time, what I really like is she still balances, her pattern and bone work all read in proportion to her skeleton. I think that makes it the most logical thing to make her to be this class winner. Congratulations to this young lady. Nice set in this particular maintainer class.
Placings in that class: first, Liliana Stanley; second, Ethan Ham. Both of those were Putnam County heifers. We're now ready for class 15 maintainer heifers. Keep those other 2 heifers close. We'll be ready to show for champion following this class. Need those red Angus heifers in class 16 and 17 heading this way. Class 16 and 17 red Angus heifers should be heading to the arena. Be getting ready the class 18 red pole heifer.
Really nice class of maintainers, and I like the one to lead off this class particularly well. Young man to my far right has your class winner. Congratulations to him. She's true, she's correct in her build, and where she really excels the young man's heifer in second. Her pasterns just simply hit the ground more comfortably on her rear foot, and it allows her to grab more comfortably. She's carrying a little extra up through her chest, no doubt, but you carve that off, and that's just an awfully good heifer in terms of balance and look, and still plenty stout. The young man that sits here in second has one that goes to the ground on probably a bigger foot and ankle. She's bigger in her forearm and her shoulder shape. When you study her up high, she's fairly broad. My issue is when you get her off to the side and get her in motion, this one gets a little goofy in her top line, and then as she plants her rear foot, she gets tighter in that passer and almost wants to knuckle as she goes and grabs. So that's where I go ahead and sort her there. But a real nice pair of heifers. Congratulations to both the exhibitors on a good class of maintainers.
Placing first in that class is Braden Mann, second, Ethan Ham. Again, both Putnam County born and raised heifers.
Come out here for a champion maintainer drive, and it gets really fun, and I think it's a pair of heifers that differ as much in type as they do in color from the outside. Obviously, anybody along ringside can see the young lady's lighter colored heifer certainly is really big shouldered and really stout and robust, while at the same time the young man's black heifer really feminine, correct in her proportions, love her design, and there's just really not an uncomfortable step as she gets out and rolls. Young man's black heifer wins this particular division. Congratulations.
Champion maintainer heifer exhibited by Braden Mann. That heifer was Putnam County born and raised, so she is also your champion Putnam County maintainer heifer.
Bring in that second place heifer, and she follows. We talked about in class, there were some similarities in what they offered, and yet she brought more bone and foot to the table. At the same time, when you get her out here next to this lighter colored heifer, there's no question that she's the next best one behind my champion in regards to just look and balance and the way she can tie things together. You got a stout bulldog out here, but I think this one reads more feminine. Congratulations to the young man for being reserved.
Reserve champion and reserve champion Putnam County born and raised, exhibited by Ethan Mann. We're now ready for Class 16 Red Angus heifers. Class 17 should be at the arena. Class 18 Red Pole heifers should also be at the arena.
Young man brings a nice juvenile heifer out here, and she looks it. But at the same time, what I love is that her angles and skeleton is right. She has a great look up front, and at this stage in her maturity pattern and feed program, I like the way her body wants to roll off the top side of her skeleton. A nice heifer to be there. Give that young man a round of applause on a quality heifer. An ornery older one than we've got here in this single entry in this older class, and she definitely has seen the feed bucket and gotten where she needs to be in from a flesh and body shape standpoint, and at the same time her angles, her skeleton are good. She's true and she's right. Nice effort for the young man to be your single entry in this class. Congratulations to him. Should be a fun champion drive.
Oh. In that last division, your champion maintainer heifer was sponsored by Cox Trucking Services, and your champion Putnam County maintainer heifer was sponsored by Poet Biorefining.
You know, it may only be 2 entries in this particular division, but I think they really do mirror a bunch of quality between them, just at different points of maturity. I discussed it earlier today. If there's a big one that's ready to roll and there's nothing broke about it, we're going to go ahead and use it. The young man here with the older heifer is going to go ahead and win this particular division. Congratulations. Congratulations to the young man also in reserve with a really good heifer that's certainly got a bright future.
Champion Red Angus heifer exhibited by Douglas Riggin. Joseph Massing had your reserve champion and your Putnam County raised champion Red Angus heifer. Those Red Angus awards were sponsored by Ron and Jane Alcorn and Renee Marsteller. We're now showing our red pole heifers. This is our only entry in this division.
Our only entry in the red pole division obviously makes my job easier, but at the same time, you know, at this stage and as young as this one is, they're going to look a little greener and skinnier, especially relative to this breed. Give them some time, and this one will come along in the feeding program. My compliments to her for bringing a quality one at this stage. Why don't you go ahead and give her a hand as she exits.
That red pole heifer was exhibited by Ashley Miller. The award sponsored by the Rodney Simpson family. While we're taking a short break, we want to appreciate our queen and her court for joining us today. Once again, our queen was Reagan Bowling. Our first runner-up was Mackenzie Taylor. Second runner-up was Emma Holzapple. Emma's not here. Jessica's not. She's our third runner-up, and Skylar Clifford was our Miss Congeniality. So we see that the 3 that spent lots of time in the beef barn decided to stay with us and hang. Got the queen actually doing some work. So appreciate her, appreciate that group for a very busy week and taking time to spend the day with us. I know we can't hear this out in the barn, but for those of you that are in the arena and can't hear this, or if you can spread the word, if you're needing to sign up an animal for the auction, we can do that today throughout the show up here at the announcer's stand. We will also do that tonight at the Grand Drive. Your deadline will be 30 minutes after the Grand Drive is completed to have those calves signed up. So if you've not done that, we need the exhibitor and one of their parents to come up and fill out that paperwork. But we can do that anytime during the show today. All right, we're ready to get started back in with that Class 19 Shorthorn Heifer. Class 19 single entry Shorthorn Heifer. Class 20 Shorthorn Heifer, have her ready. And please also have that Class 21 Shorthorn Plus Heifer at the arena ready to go.
I remembered this young lady and this heifer from showmanship and thought she was a nice heifer at that time. And obviously she's young, and when you're looking at these younger calves, they're not ready-made products by any means. But again, what I love about her is her look and presence from the side. I think she has enough body shape, just enough in this particular stage in the game. Certainly could be more knowing this breed, but definitely a good pattern, good design heifer. The young lady deserves a round of applause for her single entry.
That heifer exhibited by Mallory Miner and was a Putnam County born and raised heifer. Now exhibiting Class 20 Shorthorn heifers.
Nice heifer for the young lady that brings out the only old heifer in this group, and this one's really presented well. She's done a great job. Nitpicky, I'd certainly like to offer a little more slope up through her shoulder and maybe make her a little bit more flexible in the way her hind leg is put in there into her body. But at the same time, this one's got a great look up front with plenty of body and mass and spread up high, plenty square leaving you as well. Nice job to that young lady on a nice heifer in this particular group. Should be a fun champion drive. Give her a hand.
That heifer exhibited by Katie Fry. We're now showing for champion Shorthorn heifer.
This champion Shorthorn heifer drive only gets close in my mind because the young lady's white younger heifer certainly offers a little bit more of a desired angle and set to her shoulder and knee, and I prefer that over the young lady's bigger heifer. At the same time, you've got to do a lot of reading in a crystal ball to decide where this white heifer sits as well, because she's quite a bit further behind in terms of body shape, obviously not as stout leaving you, but angles are really good. While at the same time, we talked about the advantage in just power and mass and maturity that the young lady's heifer that came out of the older group has. So I think it's actually relatively close between them. I'll keep it more simple today, but I like that white heifer down the road. Champions the older heifer, reserves the white, but you could certainly flip them and I wouldn't argue with you. Congratulations to both the exhibitors and give them a hand.
Champion Shorthorn heifer exhibited by Katie Fry. That heifer is not a Putnam County born and bred, so Mallory Miner had your reserve champion Shorthorn heifer and your champion Putnam County born and raised. Now exhibiting our single entry Shorthorn Plus heifer. This is the only heifer in this division.
Not exactly this heifer's first time getting out in the ring, nor this showman, and I know this heifer is just starting to get a little cantankerous on her, so we'll keep it relatively brief. But what you just can see from the outside as you watch this one drive or lead out, certainly love her look and extension up front, ultra cool head and how it ties in her shoulder, and at the same time she doesn't give up any chest. What I like is her spread up high and her body shape still reads right. She's square and true leaving you. If I'm going to nitpick on this one at all, and it could just be how much she wants to fight the lead right now, she could get out and just reach a little bit better off her rear leg. But I think it's being nitpicky on an awful nice heifer to be sitting there. Give that showman and that heifer a nice round of applause.
The champion Shorthorn Plus heifer was exhibited by Grace Fry. Those Shorthorn and Shorthorn Plus banners, the champion Shorthorn was sponsored by Jim Samsel family. The Putnam County born and raised Shorthorn was sponsored by the Harcourt family, and the champion Shorthorn Plus was sponsored by the Merkel family Shorthorns.
Anytime you bring some flatter haired cattle in initially, it can throw it off just a little bit at first when you're appraising them. But you get past that, and what I really like about this heifer is she's incredibly cracked open, guys. I don't personally need them this wide, but at the same time, if you can do it and maintain it within your framework and skeleton and get out and handle it like this one does, my compliments to her. At the same time, her body's good. I like the way her top line ties in, again, especially for being flatter haired. I think this heifer just offers a tremendous amount of good and usable value. Give this young lady a nice round of applause on a nice single entry.
That Class 22 Simmental heifer exhibited by Hanley Everman. We are now ready for Class 23 Simmental heifers. Class 24 should be at the arena. The Sim Solution heifers should be getting ready.
Fun class to get worked into, and I really love the white muzzled heifer's added foot and foundation that you see in this one. It's hard to keep them this big footed, still keep them clean and not too coarse, and offer some look in the way their shoulder lays in. I think that one's a pretty fun one in her pieces that she offers. Nice heifer to win this particular class. The young man, exhibitor 128 that comes out here, offers a heifer that in a lot of classes and situations, this one plays just fine. She's really big and bold in body. She's pretty spread, offers quite a bit of spread and dimension up high, and she's pretty big chested relative to the heifer ahead of her. Just doesn't go to the ground on as much foot and bone, doesn't quite lay her shoulder in and offer as much look up front. That's why she ends up in two. Really nice pair of heifers though. Make sure to give those exhibitors a nice round of applause.
Placing first in that class was Kennedy Clark. Drew Boyette was second. We're now ready for Class 24 Simmental heifer.
Got a good looking Mack truck that just rolled in here, and at the same time, it's hard to make these heifers this three-dimensional and still offer enough of a feminine look through their head and how their neck ties in. I think she balances awfully well from the side, and in motion she looks fairly acceptable, and so should be fun to watch her drop in here to this champion drive here that we're just about to do. But before that, make sure you put your hands together for the young man on the single entry.
That was Parker Hacker winning that class. We're now showing for champion Simmental heifer. We did not have any Putnam County born and raised Simmental heifers this year.
Sometimes some things, and it's good as a judge. We always talk about it, and I harp on our kids that I coach in high school as well. I always tell them sometimes we just need to step back off and kind of get what I call bleacher seats. You know, ringside judging's the easiest game in town. I know that. And when you're sitting out here, things look certainly different, and you can see, you know, silhouettes and looks and balance and body shape pretty easy. When you get in on them, there's things to appreciate, and that's all I'm going to dive into within that deal. You know, when we get in here, just the sheer amount of foot and feature that comes in this young lady's heifer that came out of that second class is really interesting, and there's some unique pieces within that. I'm not saying she's a perfect show heifer by any means, but just something I wanted to make note of, because when you get a seat right in here, that one's impressive in certain areas. I think, though, not to make rocket science out of it, and I think the heifer that looks like a show heifer, big, stout, and bold, and still correct at this stage in her maturity and condition, the young man out of the older group is going to win your Simmental breed. Congratulations. It's obvious you get in default mode and wait for a second to drop out, but that's already taken care of because that was a single entry. So we get back out here, and I think you can get closer, but there's too much unique good in the young lady's heifer that came out of that second group. She'll be reserved. Congratulations. Really good pair within the Simmental breed.
Champion Simmental heifer exhibited by Parker Hacker. Reserve champion Simmental heifer was exhibited by Kennedy Clark. Those awards, the champion Simmental was sponsored by Ocala Valley Farm, and we didn't have a Putnam County born and raised. We're now ready for the Sim Solution Class 25. Sim Solution Class 25. Class 26 Sim Solution heifers should be at the arena. Class 27 crossbred heifers be getting ready.
easily the most competitive pair of heifers we've had in any one class today, and I don't think I have to overstate that by any means. I think the quality is extremely good. I'll highlight them just for what I see and what they represent, and I'll let you know where they fall. The young man's heifer, the young man in the glasses on the far side's done a killer job, and I told him, I said, he's just laser focused out here, and the hair and presentation's obviously good. He's got this one fitted up and stuck the best he possibly could. With what I see, gets awesome in this heifer. Love the amount of dimension she carries up high, and she's extremely three-dimensional as she leaves you. She's big through the lower portion of her body cavity and fairly good through her midrib. Up front, I could certainly lay her shoulder just a nickel further back in her skeleton. I think that lets her front end get a little bit more attractive, but definitely a good heifer that offers value there. The young lady's heifer that sits off to my left, bigger and no doubt more mature in her look. She also, when you knock the hair off of them, doesn't quite get as pretty and attractive as a fit-up show pony. But at the same time, when you get past that, I think her tall shoulder still sets in her body and maybe a nickel more appropriate, and where her neck ties out is a little more ideal. Obviously, at the stand at times, she can get a little bit lazy, just how she wants to tie in her hook and where it ties into her spine, but when you get her pulled back together and rolling, she pulls together extremely well. Love her big foot and where it sets going away. I think her ability to balance her body mass and stoutness and still do it in a slicker haired format that's more three-dimensional through her forerib and out of her shoulder. I actually like the young lady's flatter haired heifer to win this particular group. No doubt that young man's heifer that sits in two is extremely well presented and good looking, but from the side I just don't read her quite as good, and how her forerib ties in, it throws off her balance ever so slightly and her shoulder gets a little lower. That's where I see that pair breaking, but it's a really tight pair, really good set in this particular class. Give them a hand as they exit.
First place in that class was Kennedy Clark. Second place, Colby Sinclair. Colby Sinclair was first, Putnam County, bred and owned. Class 27 crossbred heifers should be at the arena. Class 28 crossbred heifers should be making their way towards the arena.
This look from the side is all that you need to sort this particular class, in my opinion. Young man on my far left wins, and I think he wins for fun. I love this heifer's ability to come together at the side. I know, obviously, this far along in maturity and what she's carrying, I know it can get a little goofy when she gets out and walks, but as you watch her feet and legs go where they need to go, and you see her pull herself together at the stand, guys, I don't know how many more brood cows you want to look like that. That's a nice looking heifer to be sitting there. The young lady that sits in second, one that certainly offers some really dense proportions within her. She's really broad out of her hook and where her mid-back ties in. She's really bold in her rib shape. I just need to see her match that up on either end. She doesn't exactly get that stout through her shoulder and leaving you relative to that. And at the same time, we can make her a nickel more attractive up front. But that's a nice pair of heifers. Nice job to those exhibitors. Should be fun as I go ahead and get into the champion drive. Give the young man a hand as we get into that. We drew that class winner out of that last class, and I spoke about how good of a pair that was and how good of a class that was. Even with that said, the young man walks out here, and I mean, I'm going to show my hand more. This is a really good quality heifer that just really balances and ties so well. I could go on and on about just the quality kind of brood cow and show heifer she is. Young man here off to my right is going to be your champion. Congratulations to him.
Champion Sim Solution heifer exhibited by Parker Hacker. He is not a Putnam County heifer, so we're now showing for reserve champion.
As we get into reserve, I spoke about the qualities that the young lady's heifer that sat in second presented, and still at the same time, I like the way this young lady's heifer looks when she pulls her out here. It was a really nice class, like I said, coming out of there. She'll be reserved, the young lady out of the younger group.
Reserve champion heifer exhibited by Kennedy Clark. She is not a Putnam County heifer. The only Sim Solution Putnam County heifer we had exhibited was Colby Sinclair, out of class 25. He is your Putnam County champion Sim Solution heifer. Now exhibiting class 27 crossbred heifers. Your award donors for those last two divisions, Champion Simmental was sponsored by Ocala Valley Farm, and Champion Sim Solution heifer sponsored by the Ryan Clark family, and the Champion Putnam County Sim Solution heifer was sponsored by Triple F Farms.
Certainly some variety in kinds as we get into our first class of crossbred heifers out here. And where I'm more comfortable landing, as you can tell all day, is I'm okay with giving up some wow and extreme pieces within each class if I feel like there's a heifer that can tie it and put it together in a more functional package. And I think that's the case, especially in this lighter weight group for the young man's heifer that comes out here. Just not going to miss a step, extremely comfortable in her build and assembly. Could she be further along in terms of body shape and be more impressive coming and going? Certainly. But I think that one's functional and reads like the more correct brew cow out of this particular group, and that's why she sits where she does. The young lady's heifer that comes out in second, certainly more jerk neck, certainly bolder through her chest, and as you take her out of her hips, she's as wide as anything in here. Put her in motion, and I think she gets tighter in her pastern, wants to get a little more choppy in how she wants to drive that rear leg off there. That's why she sits where she does. The young man that rounds out the class certainly offers one that can cover the surface, but when we study her in terms of flesh and just practicality there, I need to make her further along in terms of body shape. Give all these exhibitors a nice round of applause on a good set of heifers.
Placings in that class: first was Zachary Purdue, second Erica Pearl, third Blake Reed. Your Putnam County class placing was first Zachary Purdue, second place Blake Reed. We're now ready for class 28 crossbred heifers. Class 29 crossbred heifers should be at the arena. Be getting ready your cow-calf pair.
But how does that heifer really feel? That was a lot of chatter. We get out here and I think we've got a pair of heifers that are extremely intriguing along the outside, guys. And I try to be transparent all day and just the thought process and the rationale and where I'm going to lay my priorities. And I try to be that way in everything I do. And we get out here and just face value in what I see in these girls. Young man's heifer on my far right, just not going to cause any issues in this particular class. She's extremely true and still within herself on either end of her skeleton. She carries plenty of bulk and mass and body shape and volume all the way through. She's, in my opinion, plenty on the more moderate, shorter coupled, shorter pattern side of things if we're going to read anything into her skeleton at this particular weight. It still balances, and when he pulls her up to the stand, she's as collected as anything in here. That's obviously of extreme value. That's what I see in that particular heifer. Your extreme and outlier pieces heifer sits right here in the young man that sits off to my left. She's so big formed and really big footed. It's not just the hair. The way you can read her skull and jawline, the way that one's head lays in, the way that one fits out of its shoulder and goes back, they're all really stout in each area. The problem is at the stand, this one's not extremely comfortable in tying her top line in. She comes in a few pieces when you get her at the stand for very long. Set her in motion. I think she's good enough, although occasionally on about every third step, she can want to almost knuckle and pop a hair on that rear pastern. It's being really nitpicky. So obviously to my debate out here is you've got one with unique pieces that extremely is goosey neck, cool and stout in certain areas. You got one that's shorter coupled, but doesn't really hurt you in any one area. I'm going to go ahead and say this one's going to tie together good enough for me, though, because I like those unique pieces. Young man will win this particular class. Young man on my right second. Really close, though. You want to flip that pair, I'm not going to fight you one bit. Third's the young lady that sits there off to the left, and certainly one that the front 2/3 of this one's body I'm good with. It's really big and robust through its forerib and heart. It's really big in its chest, and she certainly offers some squareness as she comes right at you. My issue is when she leaves you, and it's where she falls out of balance even from the side. She wants to cut up in her flank, get a little shallower and shorter in her hip. watch her go away from you. She flattens out through her pins. It gets a little flatter as she leaves you. That's why I run her in third. But that's a nice heifer to be sitting there. Young man that rounds out the class with the red heifer has one that's fairly functional in its build, just needs to be more powerful all the way through, especially relative to the heifers ahead of her. Give all these exhibitors a nice hand on a good set of crossbred heifers.
Placings in that class: first place Daniel Williams, second place Ethan Ham, third place Grace Carr, and fourth place Logan Tumal. Putnam County placings were first Daniel Williams, second Ethan Ham, and third Logan Tumal. We're now showing class 29 crossbred heifers. Have those first and second place crossbred heifers ready for the champion drive, and also have that cow-calf pair headed towards the arena.
Extremely close pair for me that sit on the outside here, and it's largely because they lay at least the benefit when we get into these commercial or crossbred heifers, whatever you want to label them. When you're laying in there, at least now we're looking at a somewhat apples to apples comparison in terms of weight. And so you can put 1,200, 1,100 pounds in a lot of different boxes and make it look a lot of different ways. And I think these two heifers do it definitely slightly different from each other. And I can get a little, indecisive, but at the same time, I feel comfortable where I continue to land, especially when you put the cattle in motion. I'm always a sucker for some taller shouldered livestock that offer, advantages and certainly a bigger package without getting too extreme. And I think definitely the young lady on my left does that. The problem is when you set these cattle in motion, I think the heifer that just drives or gets out and leads off of just a more comfortable and authoritative rear leg and the way she can grab and the way her hip wants to set underneath her as she does it, the young lady to my right is going to be your class winner. Congratulations. No doubt, relative to the pair, I need her taller shoulder and I need to take some of the chub out of her chest, and I'm fully admitting of that. But what I like is when you set this one in motion, she is the more comfortable heifer that I think puts her rear leg more comfortably where it needs to be. The young lady that sits here off to my left, she's taller shoulder, but that shoulder almost slides up a nickel in her skeleton, and as she gets out and moves, her shoulder hip wants to round ever so slightly out underneath her. I think that just throws off her balance when you get her in the lead, and that's why she ends up in second. But a good heifer to be sitting there. The young man that sits there in third offers a heifer that's not near as fed and pushed and chubby as the other two ahead of her, and that's okay. When you study her at the surface, her feet are both pretty good. They both sit truly underneath her foundation, and when you get her in motion, she handles herself well. I need to elevate her shoulder, I need to stouten her and broaden her and her body shape and mass up high, but that's certainly a nice heifer for the young man to be sitting there in three. Young lady that rounds out the class certainly offers one that has some internal dimension, but when you study her off the side, she wants to fall out of balance. She gets a little deeper in her chest, doesn't quite tie in as well up front. But certainly a nice effort for the young lady. Give these exhibitors a hand as they exit on a nice set.
Placings in class 29. First place, Alex Steffi. Second place, Brookley Oliver. Third place, Gunnar Estep. Fourth place, Briley Evans. Putnam County placing was Alex Steffi first, Brookley Oliver second, Briley Evans was third. We are now ready to show for champion crossbred heifer.
Come out here for your champion crossbred, and obviously other than your cow-calf deal you might have here shortly, this is obviously the last division you get to hear me run my mouth about in the heifer division. And so when we get out here, certainly appreciate all three of them that are sitting in here. I think it's been an extremely good heifer show thus far. The grand drive will happen later this evening. We'll have a lot of fun with that. But what I'm happy about in this crossbred division is you get all three of these class winners out here relative to their weight groups, and each one of them can at least plant and hit the surface right. I'm going to preach it all day in the heifer side of things. And so I'm happy with where we're at. They certainly all put it in different shapes and sizes and patterns. I think the heifer that is unique, especially in certain areas, but at the same time, when you set the cattle in motion, her loose, comfortable skeleton still offers an extended and good look up front. She's really big in her feature and cool in her design. Young man's heifer that comes out of the second class will be your champion. Congratulations.
Champion crossbred heifer exhibited by Daniel Williams. That heifer is Putnam County born and raised, so she will also be your champion Putnam County crossbred heifer. We need Ethan Ham's second place heifer out of class 28.
it gets quite a bit closer for reserve. And I spoke about it briefly. I thought the young ladies heifer that comes out of the older group, I love her just comfortability in her skeleton, her ability to get out and cover the ring. When you study her up front, she's not exactly a fresh, cool, jet-fronted show heifer, but at the same time, she does a really good job of presenting her for what she is. The young lady that brings out that second out of that particular class, I like this heifer's ability to balance and still proportion. Talked about her in class. I'd say she's on the borderline for me of being as just moderate and as short coupled and just patterned as I prefer at that particular weight group. But at the same time, she does balance and offer a great look up front and tie together. She more closely resembles what I used for champion. Second out of that particular class will be reserve. Congratulations to those exhibitors. Nice set of crossbred heifers. Should be fun to go into Grand Drive later in that particular division.
Reserve champion crossbred heifer exhibited by Ethan Ham. She is also Putnam County born and raised. We're now ready for our single entry cow-calf pair. In order to be eligible for this division, the heifer had to be shown at one of the two previous Putnam County fairs and the calf raised by the exhibitor. So this is our single entry cow-calf pair.
Easily still one of my favorite just spectacles to watch when you get out and you ever get a chance. I'd encourage you to do so is when you ever go to the World Beef Expo and you get to watch the Grand Drive in that Coliseum of the cow-calf deal. It's really fun to watch them come out in the spotlight and watch these cows and their calves come trotting out there, and it's a really good set. And again, if you've never ventured up to Wisconsin and seen that deal in action, I'd encourage you if you're a cattle enthusiast. It's a lot of fun to watch. Cow-calf pair comes out here. It's your only exhibit at a county fair, but I'll tell you, that cow is held in from a longevity standpoint extremely well. Looks like a lady mama, and then we get in there, that little bull calf's a stout sucker, and so he looks pretty cool. And so, no, I think that's a really nice pair. Give these exhibitors a nice round of applause and a really good entry.
Champion cow-calf pair exhibited by Brock Haven. Sponsoring that award was Joe and Angela Mann. Sponsoring our crossbred awards that we just completed was champion, was sponsored by GHG Angus Farm, and Putnam County champion crossbred was sponsored by David Sutherland and family. We will take a 1 hour break and get back with the steers. We will start back at 12:45 with the steers. So if you're in the arena and you can spread that word back through the barn, we'll try and do so as well. But 12:45, we will start back with the steers.